Hello listeners, Dr. Kifefight here. I hope you all had a great Halloween. Today I will be playing for your listening pleasures a true story sent to me from a listener just like you. Enjoy. Hi there, this is Malcolm speaking. I am sending this in to you, Dr. Kifefight, because I can't keep it to myself any longer. I'm only 20 years old, yet I look and feel much older. I guess this is one of the side effects of being haunted. It all began when I moved in with my great uncle when I was 17 to help look after him and to get some space of my own away from my parents who constantly have sex very loud. My great uncle Harry, well, what was wrong with him? He wasn't physically ill as such, he just had dementia and as a result needed constant care. It started small, like he'd come to family gatherings and get names mixed up or he'd forget to take his medication. Things gradually went downhill and this one time he nearly lost his life over forgetting to turn off his oven. He'd put the turkey in, then ordered out as he'd forgotten about the turkey. Thank Jehovah the neighbour was walking their dog and saw the smoke. This was when I offered to move in to help, thinking this was a charitable thing to do, and knowing what goes around comes around. God, how wrong I was. The first few months were really good. Harry hardly needed my help, just someone to have as a companion to watch the game with and play the odd round of cards. I mainly was just there for company, and to make sure he didn't do anything dangerous to his condition. I received a lot of money each month for being my uncle's carer and used the money to pimp out the cellar in Harry's house to become my man cave, for gaming and chilling with the boys and whatnot. I even put a big 4-poster bed in there. Anyway, once my man cave was ready, I couldn't wait to move in. I'd installed security cameras in the kitchen and on the stairs so I could keep an eye on Harry if I was down in my cellar. The first night I spent down there was the first time something happened. During the night, I felt a presence next to me on my bed, and I awoke startled. I flipped the switch on my bedside lamp, and there was nobody there. I did, however, notice what looked like an imprint on my bed next to me. Shaking it off as a coincidence, I went back to sleep. The next few nights were the same. I felt something odd about the room, but was not going to give up my man cave that I'd spent months building and saving up for. I started smoking a little bit of weed at this point on a night to help me sleep better. This seemed to work. A month or so passed and all was fine again. Then I met a girl called Liz who worked at the pharmacy where I got Harry's medication. She seemed quite flirty with me whenever I went in and I bumped into her at the post office, so I asked her out on a date. She accepted and I was chuffed. When I got home that night, I told Harry all about her. "Has she got big tits, lad?" he asked me. "She'll be nice and tight any road at that age." He then said, before I could even answer. Being old and suffering as he did with dementia, Harry often showed signs of both sexism and racism, as I guess he'd forgotten this was not acceptable in the current world. After we had gone for a drink on our first date, Liz came back with me to see the man cave. She loved it. We ended up falling asleep, holding hands, watching cheesy rom-coms on Netflix. The next morning, as I awoke, Liz was gone. No note or text, just gone. I tried to call her, but her phone was off. As I needed to get Harry some meds anyway, I went to the pharmacy to ask about her there. Nobody had seen or heard from her. Thinking that maybe she needed some time to think about things with us, I thought I'd push her out of my mind for a few days. But that first night after she disappeared, the presence was back. It was also stronger than before. Unlike before, when I could just feel something nearby, this time I awoke in the middle of the night, freezing cold, and could see a young boy watching my TV, Netflix still on, as I usually fall asleep watching it. My first thought was this cheeky little kid had snuck in whilst I was asleep, maybe an orphan or an homeless or something. But I checked the camera in the kitchen, which clearly showed the back door locked and bolted. Also, I noticed the door down to my man cave was also locked. Right on cue, as I started to freeze up with fear, the little boy, he turned his head around a full 180 degrees to stare straight at me. He opened his mouth to speak as he pointed at me, but no words came out. The boy's eyes were pure black, Starting to slightly recover my wits and determined not to piss my pants, I flipped on the light, and as I did, the apparition of the awful little ghost boy disappeared. After smoking a big joint and calming myself down, I turned the light back off to get more sleep. What a mistake that was. The boy immediately reappeared when the light went off, but he was on my bed next to me this time. What do you want? I asked him, and he pointed again, but I realised he was pointing at the wall behind me. Feeling along the length of the wall, I noticed a hollow spot. Determined to get to the bottom of this, I grabbed an hammer and started smashing the hollow spot in. As soon as I broke through, the smell hit me. It was decay and filth. I opened it as much as I could and discovered at the bottom of the wall, between the outside wall and the cellar wall, there was a black bag all taped up. I think I knew at that moment what was in the bag. I turned back around and the ghostly boy had disappeared, as he had finally shown someone his resting place and could now be properly buried and pass on to the next life in peace. Absolutely appalled at what I discovered, I first called the police and second went to Harry's room to ask if he had any information on the previous house owners. As I was in a complete state, I did not knock on Harry's door as usual, but burst in my state of shock. Harry wasn't alone. Next to him, on the bed, was Liz, and my first thought was, what a fucking dirty slut. But after a couple of seconds I realised she was tied up, she weren't breathing, and there was a trail of blood coming out of the corner of her mouth. In a complete fit of rage, I leathered Harry around the head with the first thing I could find, which happened to be one of Liz's shoes. The shoe part slipped off his old bald head, and one of the stilettos went right into his neck, killing him with a spurt of blood that almost hit the ceiling. The police arrived shortly after, and mistakenly took me downtown. After explaining my case, reviews of security camera footage and scientific analysis, it was determined that I was innocent and I was let go. Turns out, the boy that was in the wall was actually my biological uncle. Harry, my great-uncle, had a son nobody knew about, and he died in an accident, so Harry buried him in the wall, and then he just forgot all about it, being demented. That sounds nasty, having dementia. Well, he was demented too. Anyway, poor boy, he'd spent 33 years in that wall. As for Liz, Harry was simply horny and had not been with a woman in so long that he felt he had to have her. She tried to turn him down, which led to him tying her up and raping her to death. I pleaded self-defence/accidental murder to killing Harry, and I'll completely let off. I mean, he were a 2-time murdering, raping monster. The boy and Liz both passed on and are now at rest, I think. I don't see or hear from any of them. But I dare ever return to that house, and it's not over for me. I am still suffering with ghosts, because every time I shut my eyes, all I see is fucking Dirty Harry's old face, and all I can hear is his dirty old laugh. Hopefully, this will sort out before I kill myself. Wow, what a story. Sorry to hear about that, Malcolm. All the best, Remember, fans, you could be featured on my next video. As always, I'm Dr. Knife Fight. Goodbye.